So for those of you who haven't engaged with myself or with Talent and Logistics before, just to give you a little bit of background before we kick in. So Talent and Logistics is an organisation who host events, conferences and awards. We conduct research, we write feature articles, and we generally provide a voice within the sector for all things kind of people strategy. We focus on 3 themes generally, and they are attracting talent into the sector and into the organisations, developing your people, and engaging a workforce. And if you want to find out more about what we do, then please just get in touch after this. For myself, to give you a bit of background as to why I may or may not be qualified to talk you through this employee engagement topic, I worked in transport and logistics for 6 years before moving into operations. Firstly, I went to a financial services company and then a utility company where I led large teams. And in the former role for the utilities company, I looked after employee engagement for circa 1,200 employees, and they ranged from contact centre staff to back office teams and loan workers as well. So yeah, in my time there, the contact channel areas that I looked after, their engagement scores grew from 56% to 80%. And the business overall achieved upper quartile results for the first time in a very long time. So hopefully I can help some people with the things I'm going to talk about today. So and then in June 2018 I joined Talent and Logistics and haven't looked back. So let's go on to the content. So the logistics sector, let's try and make it as relevant as we possibly can. So our sector is an interesting one to talk about at the moment. So in some areas we've seen unprecedented peaks, like a month's worth of Black Fridays have come all at once. And in other areas we've seen dramatic falls, with hauliers closing down shop and many workers furloughed or being made redundant. We know that recruitment is down. We know that many large organisations are shifting resource from quieter contracts to busier ones. And we're now starting to understand that we're likely to experience a very, very bad recession, with employment rates at a level we haven't seen in a long time after all of this. And the logistics sector, no doubt, will be significantly impacted by this. And then we have historic issues. So before coronavirus hit, so we've got the perception of our sector, it can be quite poor. Knowledge is quite limited among young people, teachers and their parents, as we proved in our last research piece that the Talent and Logistics completed. And even some of those people that I speak to who work within the logistics sector aren't always keen for their children to come and work in it. So of course, that's a generalisation, and I understand that there's some orgs out there that do an absolutely fantastic job, but we've not always been great at attracting young and fresh talent, and we're also not fantastic sometimes at retaining our people. So in warehousing and transport, for example, attrition levels are really quite high in some organisations. But kind of enough of the bad stuff, really. I'm here to talk positive. So I think there's an opportunity to be taken here. You know, have the tides turned slightly on the perception of the sector, with many roles being recognised as key workers and children understanding the important role our heavy goods drivers, for example, our warehouse operators and our couriers play. Are people starting to see what can happen when a supply chain is put under pressure, and therefore the impact this can have on our day-to-day lives? So getting medicine and PPE to our hospitals, and food and toilet roll to our supermarkets. You know, is there an opportunity there to really improve things? Because things will improve and business will fight back, and logistics will be needed, just as it always has been, you know, a backbone without which society would not function. So I guess where communications have needed to evolve, and when we've had to innovate to remain competitive during these times, I suggest, and this is why I'm doing this webinar, that we take the time to review our employer branding and to improve our employee engagement strategies, so that when employment does stabilise and when recruitment is on the up, that the logistics sector is ready for it. So I hope that kind of gives some context as to why I wanted to do this webinar today. So just a small quote there around what employee engagement is, if you weren't sure. I don't know, from the people that have registered today, this might be someone's first time of kind of exploring this topic. So I'll let you have a read, but it's basically saying that it represents the level of enthusiasm and connection an employee would have with your organisation, and it shows how motivated they are to put in effort, and how committed they are to staying with you. So obviously a big retention piece. And then I thought about doing this as a poll, but I think it worked better as just a bit of self-reflection, really. So I want you to ask yourself these 5 questions. So am I proud to work for the company? Would I recommend the company as a great place to work? Do I ever think about leaving the company? Do I envisage myself still being here in 2 years' time? Do I feel motivated to go above and beyond for the company I work for? These are the sorts of questions you'd find in an employee engagement survey, perhaps, and these 5 questions could quite quickly tell you whether someone's engaged with your workforce or not. And generally what you'll do is you'll ask people to say whether they're kind of very engaged, whether they're just engaged, neutral, disengaged, or very disengaged with these answers. And what you'll tend to get is 3 groups of people. So you'll have highly engaged people. They will be loyal and committed. They'll be highly productive, and you'll see really good retention from those people. You'll have passive workers who are productive but not really connected, and they'll be the ones that are absent a lot more, and they're more likely to be kind of searching and looking for new jobs. And then there's the actively disengaged. So these people are present physically but absent mentally, probably, and they're unhappy, and they're the sort of people that want everyone to know that they're unhappy. So they can sometimes be defined as being quite toxic within an organisation. So I thought I'd pop those 5 questions up there. How would you answer those questions yourself? Hopefully you're feeling really engaged with your workplace, but also have a think about how the members of your team and your workplace would answer those questions. And if you think the responses wouldn't be that great, then maybe it's time to look at the employee engagement strategy, and maybe that's why you're on today's webinar, but hopefully no one's in that place. So moving on, I wanted to run through some business benefits for employee engagement. So I recognise that the need to keep your business afloat and its survival is what needs to be prioritised at the moment. And that may come at the cost of some employee engagement strategies you may have. But I just urge people to remember that people create business value. That is indisputable. And people can be, well, people are emotional and can be quite fickle. You know, we want to be won over as the human race. We want to be won over, and that is why employee engagement can be an organisation's differentiator in times of stability and in times of disruption and rapid change, like we're seeing now. So to give you some context to these business benefits that I've got up here, so I'll just take a few examples. So companies with scores in the top quartile for employee engagement have twice the annual net profit than those in the bottom quartile. They tend to have 12% higher customer satisfaction, 2.5 times greater revenue growth, 40% lower staff turnover, 18% higher productivity, and 62% less accidents than those in the bottom quartile. So, and that's from a Gallup, that's from an Engage for Success report that was released in 2019. So it's quite, you know, up to date information. So if that doesn't kind of win people over on why employee engagement is important, then I'm not sure what will. So after going through those benefits, I'm going to run through now some different areas that I'd like to focus in on as to how you can achieve those high levels of engagement. So the first thing I want to talk about is giving your workforce a voice. So And each of these, I'm going to try not to, I'm not just going to talk about COVID-19 all of the time. I'm going to make sure that I talk about some more general stuff that obviously can be taken forward when hopefully things have improved. But I will make some references to what you can do differently at the moment, potentially. So at the moment, with giving your workforce a voice, I just ask that everyone remember that people have their own challenges going on and that everyone is trying their best. So some people are worried about social distancing in general, and they feel uncertain, they have redundancy fears, they've got different time pressures than they've ever had before, increased stress, financial worries, and there's lots and lots of people out there that are suffering in silence and isolation with this. But then on the other hand, you have some people that feel well, they feel relaxed, they feel grateful, happy to be at home, taking a much needed break. Some people, they're financially all right, they're enjoying, like I am, enjoying no commute or travel at the moment, and they're finding themselves more productive by working from home or working in a kind of downsized office. So just remember that everybody's in a different place, and make sure you encourage open conversations so that people can bring their very best self to work. And you as a leader need to demonstrate actively that you're listening, make sure that you're responding and that you're taking action to any concerns and worries that people may express. It might be worth at the moment placing value on output rather than hours at work. Maybe that would be useful from a management tool point of view. I know that I work all sorts of hours now with homeschooling and the children and things, and so it might be worth measuring kind of output in a different way to what you normally would. That's just something to think about. Moving on to empowering your workforce. So you need to provide your workforce with opportunities, with projects and tasks that make them want to log in and come to work each day, and to encourage them to do their very best at work. So, do you encourage people to look for new and innovative ways to do things and involve them in your continuous improvement processes? Do you trust staff to develop and implement solutions? Maybe something you could do is create continuous improvement champions within the workplace, and they could run stop, start and continue sessions with the rest of the people that work within their teams to come up with ideas of how they can improve things. Do you let opinions be heard? So always try to remember that employees have the answer. Let them help you to survive, to grow, to innovate and to succeed, and let them influence your future strategies. They're the ones with the answer. They're the ones a lot of the time doing the do. And if you can include them, that's going to help your engagement levels so much. And when you've rolled something out, a piece of change, you're trying something new, why not create? We used to create graffiti boards. Maybe at the moment, if everyone's working from home, you can create a virtual graffiti document that allows for people to put down their feelings towards new processes or systems that you've rolled out, and allows them to identify snagging issues really, really easily. And then I've put down about engagement surveys for giving your workplace a voice. So some say that engagement surveys are dead, and that they shouldn't exist because it's more about continuous feedback. And I kind of get where that's coming from a little bit. But I think they're kind of the same thing, really. So I don't personally agree that engagement surveys as a whole should be gone, especially in this new socially distanced world that we're in. I think it's important to remain in contact with people and to understand how things are for them. So it's great to hear people's thoughts, but if you're going to do an engagement survey of some sort, you need to make sure that you understand why you are doing it and what you want to achieve from it. You really need to think hard and give careful consideration to the questions that you're going to ask. Why are you asking them? Are they relevant at the moment or are they not? And of course, there's absolutely no point in doing it whatsoever if you're not going to follow things up. So unless you know that you have capacity and resource to follow up the findings that you get from your surveys, then maybe they're not worth doing. But I would suggest you don't just have to do one annual survey. So regular touch points are great. Short, snappy surveys that are on dedicated themes might work well. So at the minute, maybe do a short, snappy survey on employee well-being. Then maybe do another one on you know, their home setup and their kind of their, you know, the technology that they've got around them, and their, you know, how good they're feeling with the remote working side of things. You know, you could change it all the time, and ask little kind of surveys that are kind of quite specific in their content. That might be useful. And if you do decide that you prefer to just do an annual survey, I think it's always a good idea to do a kind of like a pulse survey partway through the year to see if the things that you're changing off the back of the first lot of feedback is actually making a difference to how engaged people feel, and if they're recognising the changes that you're making and they understand what you're doing for them. After this webinar, I have got a resource which is all about kind of creating your own internal engagement surveys. So I'll make sure that each and every registered person gets a copy of that sent through to them, if you like. Okay, so giving people the right tools for the job. So systems and technology. Are your systems always crashing? Is there too much downtime? Are the phone lines ancient? Can people get their work done effectively with the systems that you've got in place? I don't know, some of you might have had to invest in some new technology quite recently with all the changes that we've got going on, but infrastructure investment is quite a difficult thing to do in most organisations, and at the moment budgets are probably even tighter than they've been before. But this can be an area that really affects engagement levels a lot. So if you can possibly gather feedback from employees about the tools that they have to do their job, you should be able to identify if you can and should be doing more, and if more investment is needed. And please make sure that when you do decide to maybe invest in some more infrastructure, that you involve your teams when you're making decisions on the new technology, because again, they'll have a good idea of the sorts of things that they need it to do. Then we've got processes and collaboration. So team collaboration is always in all surveys and teams that I've worked in the past, it's always an area that's fallen down quite a lot, because people tend to be quite, mostly, I'm generalizing again, but you do tend to find that people are quite siloed in their teams, and they sometimes struggle. You know, if another team touches their process, it can be like, oh well, they always get that wrong, and we're the ones that know what we're doing, and you know, so it can be quite tough to get teams to collaborate effectively. So if you're looking at your processes, get the teams to collaborate on that process improvement. You know, if they're both touching it, can they find a way to work together to find a more efficient, customer focused approach to that process? And that could lead to much better working relationships and understanding between those teams as well. So that's something that I always tried to implement in business when I was looking after employee engagement. And then obviously for right tools for the jobs, there's the whole training and development piece. So, you know, we have to value the impact that expanding our employees' knowledge base has to the organisation. You know, obviously it improves their weaknesses, it drives a higher performance, and of course it shows that they're valued, and it's going to boost their morale. And the cost of losing an employee can be high. It can get into the tens of thousands of pounds once you've looked at recruitment and all of the training and development and induction that's needed. But training and development is one of those first things that's always cut when a business is struggling. And, you know, so I imagine at the moment a lot of training budgets have been cut. I personally would prefer to try and invest in someone in my team than lose them and spend thousands of pounds recruiting them. And I know that might be difficult at the moment, but there might be some small pieces of personal development that you can do with people. I mean, online training and e-learning, for example, that can be utilised at the moment. People can even do stuff like that on furlough. I don't know if you've seen on the government's website, people can take part in training and development whilst they're on furlough, as long as it doesn't directly impact kind of monies brought into the company they work for. And of course, online training and e-learning can be a very cost-effective way to develop people. And it creates flexibility around their learning as well. So again, at the moment, when lots of people have got different kind of schedules to work for, you know, they can do this online learning at times that are convenient for them. So yeah, from employee engagement, training and development obviously is huge. And then I move on to reward and recognition. So employee engagement now is very different to what it was a few years back. There are a lot of things that were viewed as perks, but they've become expected now, amongst all people, but especially I think younger people. So what people term as millennials and even, you know, younger than that. Things such as flexible working and home working are expected. Workplace snacks are one of the things that I read in a report recently that people just kind of expect to have now. It's not a perk. They expect to have fruit on the side, or, you know, the odd pizza Friday or whatever. And of course, at the moment, the flexible working and home working is more of is a necessity. It's, you know, during COVID, and for me the snacks necessity as well. But yeah, so employee engagement and the things that people value have changed quite a bit. And one thing that people always say is about money, and people have this argument of, do people leave jobs always because of pay, or do they not? You know, is it about other things such as recognition and stuff? And a report showed that 89% of organisations think that people leave their job because of money and pay, but only 12% actually do. So I think what's important from that first bullet point on the slide is that what people expect is fair pay. They expect the right amount of pay for the job that they are doing, and that's more likely when they will leave, if they don't think it's fair based on the tasks and the roles and the hours that they're putting in. When you think about employee perks and benefits, I'd always say try if you can to make sure they kind of reflect your organisation's culture. So maybe team nights out, or a little session of online Zoom bingo at the moment, potentially. Do you promote well-being with a cycle to work initiative, or, you know, when they're back up and open, giving people reduced gym memberships? Showing people support with childcare vouchers or childcare options. You know, there's some organisations that have creche facilities and things like higher education institutes, and, you know, leaving people feeling secure. So things such as, which you might not consider, but things such as critical illness cover and having good sick leave in place. You know, they shouldn't be thought of as, oh, we're not going to do that because it's going to promote absence and sickness if we've got really good levels. It's got to be that that's something that might help you retain talent and attract people, because they know that in times of need and when they're struggling and when things aren't going well, that their employer is there and will support them through it. If you're working for an organisation where there's no sick leave at all, it can leave people with a lot of anxiety and worry about if one day, you know, you did get unwell. So, you know, that's a really important benefit that sometimes gets overlooked. And then we can look at career paths. So making sure that everyone in your organisation knows that if they work hard and they give passion, that they can progress if they want to. Remembering, of course, that not everybody wants to progress. So not trying to make everybody do it. I've worked in places where everyone had to have an extensive personal development plan when really they were on the wind down to retirement, and they, you know, they didn't want it. So making sure that we recognise that, but ensuring people who want to know that they can. Having a strong appraisal system in place. Next month, I'm going to be creating a resource around managing performance and appraisal systems. So again, I'll make sure that gets shared. But just generally making sure that we're giving regular constructive feedback to our employees. and not steering away from difficult conversations when they're needed, but also remembering that appraisals, by the very name, are there for praise. You know, they're there to talk about the positives and to give people, you know, that reassurance of the things that they're doing well, whilst being able to give them some constructive feedback as well. And then when it comes to recognition, I suppose it's about stripping it right back to basics. So if employees aren't recognised for their hard work, especially during these times, then their passion, their stamina and their focus may diminish. And a simple thank you goes a very, very long way. Going back to the stats, 79% of people cite lack of recognition as the reason for leaving their job, which seems more, you know, what I would think. So when it comes to saying thank you, make sure it's balanced. So make sure that you're thanking your strong performers, as you always will, but you're also thanking those people that are improving, you know, a lot, and you know, thanking those experienced team members that come in every day and do the job and do it well, but they're not your strongest performer, but that, you know, they're a good steady person to have in your team. Make sure you're timely with it, so you say thank you straight away. Don't wait and think, oh, I'll buy them a treat later, or I'll do this later. Just say thank you. That's all that's needed. Make sure they know what you're saying thank you for, and do it often. Make recognition for a good job done the absolute norm, and promote it amongst your teams. Get them to say thank you and celebrate each other. We used to have this little thing when I worked for the utilities company, which was a heroes board, and it was nothing really. At the end of the month, someone would win a box of Cadbury's Heroes or something, but it was just a chance for people to stick post-its up on the wall to say thank you to each other. And the best part about that was at the end of the month when we had a team meeting and we read out all those thank yous, and it, you know, there was some funny things and that made people laugh on there, but it just made people feel appreciated. And that was a real big kind of game changer in the contact centres around employee engagement. And then I move on to corporate responsibility. So showing your employees that you care about them. So ensuring that you have strong health and safety strategies in place with goals for accident reduction, with clear return to work processes and strong absence management. You know, the reason that you have absence management and return to work processes is not, again, it shouldn't be your goal to try and, you know, it's a way to get people out of your organisation, to identify those people that are taking the mickey and that, you know, you want to get rid of. It should again be about supporting employees. That's why you need a good process in place for absence management and return to work. It should be about, I don't know, let's call him Bob. Bob's been off 2 or 3 times in the last few months. If you've got a strong return to work processes and you can understand that it's the similar sort of thing that keeps happening to Bob as to why he's being off, or it gives you that opportunity to catch up and just recognise that maybe the glint's gone out of his eye and he's not quite at the same way that he was before. It's an opportunity to spot when someone needs your help and your support, and it's an opportunity on return to work processes to maybe change something about their working day. Maybe they've suffered a back injury and they need some help support with their workstation. Maybe they need to work slightly different hours because what's happening is a mental health personal issue around a divorce, and they need to figure out childcare, and working hours are a real struggle and something that's causing them anxiety. That's why you need to have health and good return to work and absence management processes in place, is to support the people that work for you. And then obviously enhancing well-being. So obviously that I've just talked about is going to help, but also just generally looking to improve your organisation's resilience and reduce individual burnout and understand and respond to different people's needs and you know what they need from an employer. Having good HR policies around performance management, equal opportunities, bullying, harassment, you know, they're not just there as tick box exercises. They're there again, like I said, so that people know that if something happens in the workplace, you you will know how to deal with it, you know, and you can sort it for them. And of course, I haven't put this on the bullet points, but of course there's that work-life balance and flexible working side of things as well, you know, showing employees that you care. I imagine that our working lives are never kind of going to be the same again after all this, so I think we might get a lot more, hopefully, I think that's hopefully something we'll take away from this, is a lot more balance and flexibility when it comes to working hours and place of work. And then showing that you care about others. So not, you know, it doesn't always have to be about your employees. You know, having great engagement with and giving back to the local community is very important. From an employer branding point of view as well. Having clear environmental and sustainability strategies, leading on and supporting charitable work, offering volunteering days to employees. I think that will make or break really with an employee, if, you know, that sense of pride of working for a business. If you're really out there in the community, and if you're really doing things that are good from an environmental and a sustainability point of view, if you're supporting local charities or nationwide charities, then that pride of working for a business really shines through from employees, and of course they'll then go away and they'll talk about that. So that's a really important thing that needs to be remembered when we're talking employee engagement. It's not always what you're doing directly to impact that employee, it's sometimes what you're doing outside of that. And at the moment, I think it's very important to show that you're a socially responsible organisation. From a COVID-19 point of view, so making sure that we're following the right processes, we're doing the risk assessments, we're encouraging that social distancing, we're thinking long and hard about how and when we're returning people back to work, and is it a necessity, you know, can they still work from home? That socially responsible side of things is very important at the moment. And then this is kind of my, I have got another slide after this, but leadership. So obviously the thing that pulls this all together, you know, employee engagement is mostly driven by the leaders and managers that work around people. There's such a big part to play, and obviously it's so important for the leaders to be engaged themselves. So, you know, because it certainly rubs off on people. So I've listed a few things on here from a leadership point of view. So being clear on company objectives. So making sure that your employees know how they can contribute towards your objectives as a business and how they will benefit from that as well. Communicating your objectives well will obviously make sure that everybody's on the same page. It will also give that sense of pride when you're working towards an objective and you achieve your goals. And at the moment, it can, if you're clear on what your objectives are through the COVID situation, it can help them to navigate this new working world, and it can provide a purpose, can clarify direction and the priorities that need to be looked at. It's important they know where they're at the moment from a business point of view, if at all possible. You know, it's important to share the reality of business performance and seek employee input on how they think things are going and how they think things can improve. And, you know, they may have some answers for you again. And then there's giving confidence, so being passionate about what you're doing as a business. So if you're not passionate about change and about things that are going on, then they're not going to be. It's the same thing as in sales. If you're not excited about the product you're selling, then why would someone buy it from you? So it's that same kind of rule, really. And then from a leadership point of view, building trust with your employees by keeping your promises. And if you say you're going to do something, making sure that you always do it. Or if you can't do things, which is always the case in engagement, people will want things that you just can't deliver. But explaining clearly why you haven't, why you can't, goes a really, really long way, because what they will see is, well, oh, Ruth has done these 2 things for us and she can't do this 3rd one, but that's okay because we know why. And then making sure that you treat employees as the valuable assets that they are, you know, understanding that respect works both ways. So everyone's role is essential, and without them, business would not function. And making sure that you show them that and they understand that is crucially important when it comes to employee engagement. Being visible, you know, not locking yourself in the office, making sure you go onto the shop floor as often as you can to interact with them. You know, I wouldn't try hot desking at the moment because it's not very kind of health and safety conscious from a risk assessment point of view. But great, hot desking is great when normality is restored. And getting the virtual calls and regular online meetings going, even if it's not to talk shop, even if it's just enough to be, you know, showing that you're available for them when they want to speak to you, to let you know how they're feeling and how things are getting on, you know, even if it's just a bit of a catch-up call with everybody to not talk about work, to just see how everyone's doing. That's important. For example, my husband, I think he's been furloughed now for, well, since the start, and he hasn't had a single conversation with his employer. And, you know, and that's leaving him feeling quite disengaged, I would say. So it's important to make sure we're staying in touch. And remembering that you're the face of change. So ensuring that reasons behind change are clearly communicating. Making sure you understand the changes before you roll them out so that you can answer as many questions as possible if they come afterwards. Making sure that the employees understand how change can benefit them. I wrote an article recently for SHD, actually, the logistics magazine, about change communication. I think it's on the website, so that goes into a little bit more detail if you want to read a bit more on that. But at the moment with COVID, I think identifying the behaviours that contributed to the speed of some transformation we've gone through as businesses, and how, you know, when COVID-19 struck and when lockdown was implemented, you know, thinking about those as a leader and how you can utilise these behaviours and this speed and this innovation for future change is really important at the moment. And then standing on their mounting. So it's hard to do this without a picture, really, or me kind of waving my arms about, but you and your employee may both be at the top of a mountain, two mountains next to each other, but the view from yours and the view from theirs may be very different. So just bearing that in mind and making sure that you're always thinking about things from their perspective is crucial when it comes to employee engagement. Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to leadership, is looking at things from their perspective. And then to finish off, really, which I think we're doing okay for time just about, a lot of that has been about just general employee engagement, a little bit around COVID-19 and the impacts that's had and how you could maybe change things up, and a lot around kind of retention and the current employees you have. But then you can look at how improving employee engagement, improving that employer branding can attract talent. So use those high engagement levels internally for good externally. So employee word of mouth. It travels so fast, and it is one of the best ways to attract talent, and to attract good talent, because you don't very often get someone from within your organisation recommending someone that's not very good. So it's a really good way to attract new people. And yeah, word of mouth for our sector and for the knowledge and the perception side of things, if we can get people talking more positively about us as employers, then that's going to be a massive benefit. And it's that whole piece again. This attracting talent is about being ready for when, you know, things improve and we can start recruiting again. But also it's important to think about how the language and images that you use in your company marketing and your recruitment adverts come across. You know, do they showcase your engaged employees? Do they showcase your company's passion, the culture? Do they showcase an equal, diverse and inclusive company? It's really important to make sure that you think about that. I mean, you're much more likely to apply for a job if there's a picture of happy, smiley people that seem like they're enjoying their time there, than just a stock image off iStock. Interviews and assessment days, you know, it's important to remember it's not just about the person seeing if they are good enough. You seeing if a person is good enough with a questionnaire and an interview in a box room. You know, it's their chance to see you, and people, especially young people, again, they want to see that they can make a difference, that your business has values that they find important. They want to see people who look like they enjoy being there. So use interviews and assessment days to showcase your business as well as you possibly can, because they are also interviewing you. That's the way I always go into a job interview, is that I'm there to see if I like the company and I will answer their questions along the way. And then finally, when possible, and obviously it's probably not possible at the moment, but it will be, think about community outreach. So getting into local schools and colleges, talking to them about the sector, the opportunities, you know, to help with your youth employment strategies, and use the engaged people that work within your place to do that. Take them with you, get them to tell their story, get them to talk about their career development, so that again, that passion shines through from them. That's you know, in my opinion, the best thing to do when you're engaging outside of your workplace. And that is it from me. So what I would suggest is, we've got some questions. There's only a couple though, and mainly, to be honest, I've had some nice compliments, which is very nice, but mainly about, can we please make sure that we're sending out the slide deck afterwards, and that people would really like to receive the resources and links to the bits that I mentioned throughout the presentation. So there's not really anything else in there for me to answer. So what I would suggest that we do, if that's okay, is my contact details are on the screen. Give me a call, send me an email if you do have any questions. You'll get a recording of this webinar if you want to listen through it again. I'm not sure if you want to hear the sound of my voice too much longer. And yeah, if you've got any questions, just fire them over and I'll be more than happy to help you with anything that you need. And that's it from me, really. So it's 11:45 on the dot. I can't believe I've managed to time it just right. So I hope you all have a great rest of the day and rest of the week. I hope the sun keeps shining, and I'll speak to you all again soon at another webinar, hopefully. Thanks, guys. Bye.